Supply Chains 2022 Problems and Solutions. My guest is Tom Coughlin. He's a fellow with IEEE. Hi, Tom.
Hello there, Robert. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. So what are just some of the major issues that supply chains are facing as we head into 2022?
Well, I mean, a big issue is going to be how COVID is going to continue to impact the supply chain. Obviously, the last couple of years, 2020, 2021, it's had a big impact. Factories have been shut down. People have not been available for shipping products from various places. And the other part of it is, of course, that we are so interdependent between things made in one place and consumed in another, or sub-assemblies being made in one place and the assembly happening somewhere else, that it makes us vulnerable to some of these issues.
Mhm.
Looking at least right now, looking into 2020, 2022, it seems like, at least at the beginning, we're running into uncertainty, at least that with the latest strain of COVID, that could be impacting supply chains coming into the next year.
Yeah. I'm wondering though, of all the problems that we've seen, maybe we can separate into short term versus long term. I mean, which problems do you think might be more likely to go away, if any of them? They could all be permanent or long term, but which ones might we expect to be longer lasting, and which ones might be resolved earlier? Do you have a sense of that?
Well, there's a number of things going on, I think, and part of it's probably a response to the current situation. People, if we go beyond the pandemic, people can, to some extent, are probably going to go back to the way that they did things before in terms of their supply chain.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, I think that just like what we're doing right now, we're communicating remotely, we're not together, that there's going to be changes in the way in which people do supply, creation and supply of things, and where they make things and where they ship them to. I think we might see things like it could lead to some both the supply chain issue and also some political issues could lead to, for instance, more things being made in country rather than being shipped from somewhere else.
Mhm.
Also, I think we could see long-term trends in terms of automation, more automation being used for both in factories and also material handling, including transportation. It may accelerate some of the trends that have already been started in that area. And then I think that there's specialized cases like the automotive shortages and chips and semiconductors in general, that there may be significant changes that could result from our experience in the pandemic.
Mhm. Now, it's anyone's guess as to how long some of these problems are going to last, obviously. But when it comes to supply chain congestion, we're starting to hear about there's some sign of relief at Southern California ports in terms of the backlog of containers, but it still is a pretty serious problem. Do
Mhm.
you have a sense of, what do you think? How much of 2022 are we going to be experiencing this continuing congestion and slowdown of the movement of product and containers and cargo through the supply chain?
Well, it certainly seems like in the first quarter, we're going to continue to see some impact of that, especially with uncertainty around COVID, impacting the availability of workers, and of if people on board a ship get sick, or if people get sick on land, there may be shortage of workers. Things like that could still be happening. It's unclear just how bad this one's going to be.
Mhm.
So I think there's uncertainty there. A lot of these changes that I was talking about, I meant there's one more I didn't mention, which relates somewhat to it certainly relates to supply chain, relates somewhat to the shortages, and that, of course, is the use of distributed ledgers or blockchain technology for control of supply
Right,
chains,
right.
which
Yeah.
is also going to play an important role. But automation, there's already, I think, things that have been going on there that probably be accelerated by this trend. Onshoring again of making some things. There's trends that have been going on there, which are going to be beginning in 2022. For instance, in the semiconductor industry, it takes a while though to make some of these things happen, because there's many months to build new plants,
Sure.
and to get them online and getting at manufacturing at yield. So, I think 2022 is still going to be at least the first half is going to be a rough year, and for some areas like in the automotive space, it looks like they're not even going to meet the manufacturing capability, at least in the U.S., that they had in 2019 until next year, until
Yeah.
2023, excuse me.
Well, IEEE is an organization dedicated to the advancement of technology in many different aspects. So I'm sure we'd like to see that go forward, but it's not an instant solution, is it? I mean, you're talking about blockchain, which is still a nascent technology, AI, which is still kind of finding its feet, so this isn't something that's going to like wipe the board clean in 2022. We're talking about years of before this really realizes its full benefits, right?
Yeah, I think what 2021, 2020 did is give us additional impetus to be implementing some of these technologies, to help deal with these issues in the future. But yes, it takes many years for people to to make transformations like this. And in a sense, this is all related to the ongoing digital transformation of a lot of businesses,
Right.
moving from older analog or not well-connected processes to processes that are more, connected, that include a lot more processing of information, may include automation, a lot more automation, things like that. I think, again, it's accelerating that, but these are multi-year processes. There's infrastructure that may be put in place, like for some of these things, they will be advantageous to have advanced wireless networking services available, and those are coming online, but they're not there yet.
So you think that, maybe some of this technology, do you think it will actually provide us with a solution to the mess or just visibility into the mess?
I think both, like that's one of the things about using distributed ledgers is that if everything is essentially uniquely identified and you can easily find the provenance of things, we could discover issues maybe faster. It'd be easier to track and find out where there's problems at. Where you're having to build new infrastructure and equipment or build whole new factories and that sort of thing, that takes some time. These are multi-year processes to undergo. And the thing is that the technology is continually evolving. When you talk about AI, we've got AI today, but we're going to have additional capabilities in the future. New types of computing coming online, which can include like quantum computing, things of that sort, which, these new computing technologies are good for certain things, not necessarily for everything, but they will a lot of these together with the humans they work with. I think working together can transform the way that we do work in the future.
You alluded earlier to the possibility of companies resourcing, or I don't know if you would use the word reshoring, because that means actually bringing manufacturing back to the United States as opposed to putting it somewhere else less risky than China. Do you see that as a permanent thing? And what kind of sourcing changes might we see in not just in 2022, but beyond?
So I think if successful reshoring probably will involve a lot more automation, a lot more technology. That's going to be a key to making that happen. And I do see that there's probably a long-term trend for that, or maybe for being able to make more critical components locally. And again, there's some political reasons why this is being pushed, as well as, supply chain issues. And so I do see that as a very important factor, that there's going to be a lot more stuff made closer to where it's manufactured, probably as a result of this. In other words, the whole idea of supply chains, we're still going to have a global supply chain. We're going to have things made in different areas, but I think it's going to be a lot, there's going to be pressure for a lot more local content in a lot of these products, which may help in dealing with future issues, like potentially dealing with future issues like this, and a lot more technology involved to make that happen.
Tom, at the end of 2020, we were also relieved that year was over and 21 was here and it was going to be so much better. And of course, it turned out in many cases not to be the case. In fact, quite the opposite. Would you call yourself an optimist about 2022? Do you think that in general that this might be a better year? I'm asking you an impossible question, of course. I just want to get your sense personally of how you feel the future, the short-term future stacks up for supply chains.
I'm kind of a professional optimist in the sense that I always look for the opportunities and look for, the silver linings, no matter how dark things look. And I think that there's a lot of things that I believe will be positive going into 2023 in terms of the development of technology, its implementation, and movements towards creating advantageous interactions between man and machine. This is not just replacing people, I think, but it's also augmenting people's capability by the use of artificial intelligence devices and automation. And beyond just where do we do the manufacturing? It's going to be, how do we do the manufacturing? I think there's a big push towards making human and machine interactions more natural, for not just segregating automation in this area, but actually making it so that it's safe to work with human beings, which AI, I think, makes that happen by being able to interpret what people do, gestures, things of that sort, and making them out of softer materials where they might interact with human beings.
Yeah.
Where humans and machines can work more naturally better together. And I think that gives us new capabilities of using the things that we're good at, making value judgments, the things that humans can do that machines can't do. Machines are really good at operations. They're really good at doing something they're told to do, but they can't figure out what that should be necessarily. Whereas we could say, well, this is the thing you should be doing, not this. And then we can help them make those things happen. And if you can do that
right now,
yeah.
For now. Well,
Yeah.
we could certainly do with a dash of optimism for 2022. Tom Coughlin of IEEE, thank you so much for spending a little time with me here to talk about the possible future and maybe shine a little bit of possible light on the subject as well. Thanks for being with me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Robert. You take care and have a great new year.
Thank you.